My name is Claire. I've always believed that secrets are like shadows. They follow you, no matter how much you try to run or hide. My secret is one that could destroy everything I've built with my husband, James. It's a secret that started with temptation and ended with fear. I wish I could go back and undo it all, but life doesn't give us that luxury. It all began one summer afternoon, 6 months ago. James and I had been married for 8 years. Our relationship was good, stable, predictable, but maybe that was the problem. I loved him, but sometimes I felt like something was missing, like I wasn't seen anymore. James worked long hours, and while I knew he was doing it for us, I often felt alone. Ryan was the new contractor we hired to renovate our kitchen. He was tall, confident, and had this easy, charming smile that made you feel like the most important person in the room. At first, it was harmless. He'd compliment me on little things, my outfit, my hair, and I'd brush it off laughing. But as the weeks went by, our conversations grew longer. He was funny, attentive, and made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Special. At first, I told myself it was just innocent flirting. But one day, when James was working late, Ryan stayed after hours to finish some painting. We had a glass of wine together, sitting in the half-renovated kitchen. One thing led to another, and I crossed a line I never thought I would. I cheated on my husband. The guilt hit me immediately. As Ryan left that night, I told myself it was a one-time mistake, something I would never repeat. I swore I'd bury it deep and go back to my life with James, pretending nothing had happened. But Ryan had other ideas. A week later, he texted me. "I can't stop thinking about you. Let's see each other again." I ignored the message. I knew that continuing anything with him would only make things worse. But Ryan didn't give up. He started sending more messages, showing up at the house unannounced, claiming he needed to check on the work. Each time I told him it was over, that what happened was a mistake. At first, he seemed to understand. He even apologized and promised to keep my secret. One night, I got a message from him that made my blood run cold. "If you won't be with me, maybe James deserves to know the truth." I panicked. I called him, begging him not to say anything. He laughed, a cold, bitter sound I hadn't heard before. "Relax," he said. "I won't tell him. If you pay me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ryan, the charming man I thought I knew, was blackmailing me. He demanded $10,000, threatening to tell James everything if I didn't comply. I didn't have that kind of money. James and I had savings, but touching it would raise questions. I felt trapped. I tried to reason with Ryan, but he wouldn't budge. "You have a week," he said, "or your perfect little life is over." I spent the next few days in a haze of anxiety. I hardly ate or slept, jumping every time my phone buzzed. I started lying to James, telling him I had errands to run when I was really meeting with Ryan, trying to convince him to leave me alone. But Ryan was relentless. He wanted the money, and he wanted to see me squirm. One day, he showed up at my workplace. He didn't come inside, but I saw him standing across the street, watching me. My heart pounded in my chest. What if someone saw him? What if he decided to confront me in public? I knew I couldn't let this go on any longer. I started researching ways to protect myself. I considered going to the police, but how could I explain the situation without exposing my affair? I thought about telling James the truth, but the idea of seeing the hurt and betrayal in his eyes was unbearable. Finally, I came up with a plan, one that was risky, but my only chance to get out of this nightmare. I agreed to meet Ryan at a motel, where he said I could give him the money. I told him I needed more time to gather the full amount and offered to give him a partial payment to buy myself some breathing room. He agreed, smug and confident as ever. What Ryan didn't know was that I had secretly recorded one of our earlier conversations where he admitted to blackmailing me. I also brought a friend with me, Sarah, a lawyer who agreed to help me. She waited outside, ready to call the police if things went wrong. When I handed Ryan the envelope of money, really just blank paper, I confronted him. I showed him the recording on my phone and told him I'd go to the police if he didn't leave me alone. His face turned red with anger, and for a moment I thought he might lash out. But then he laughed, his usual arrogance returning. "You think you've won?" he said. "Go ahead, tell the cops, but you'll have to tell your husband everything too. Are you ready for that?" His words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was right. Even if I stopped him, the truth would still come out and I'd lose everything. I felt tears welling up, but I refused to let him see me cry. Instead, I stood my ground. "You're not ruining my life anymore," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "This ends now." Ryan stared at me for a long moment before finally backing down. He took the envelope and walked away, muttering something under his breath. I waited until he was gone before collapsing into Sarah's arms, trembling with relief. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but the truth is, the secret still haunts me. Ryan hasn't contacted me since that night, but I live in fear that he'll show up again or that James will somehow find out. Every day I carry the weight of my betrayal, wondering if I'll ever be able to forgive myself. Some secrets are too heavy to keep, but for now, I have no choice. All I can do is try to move forward, one step at a time, and hope that the shadows of my past never catch up with me. I would be very happy if you share your comments with me. If you enjoy learning English with me, please subscribe us